do it. You can't prove it.
Yeah, we asked fun.
No. Hey, John. I thought we were friends, man. Oh shit.
Guinness is good.
No, we were talking about while we were off the air. Me and Joe were talking about the new place.
Yes, I understood that when I came back.
It's nice. You know, and
but your roommate, your roommate is not being dependable.
No. I didn't say that. He can't move in until the 13th. I met my neighbor. I didn't meet him. I saw him. It's very weird.
Now, yeah, are you all is your unit all on one level, or is there a downstairs?
There's not a downstairs.
There's not a downstairs? Okay.
No.
I know it's right up on the hill. I didn't know if there was.
No.
So how do you like reliable internet?
So far it's been really good.
Now, which one did you get? Did you get the?
We got the gig. We
Okay.
got the gig. I was going to spend some damn money on that because it was the whole reason I wanted to move to Chattanooga. You got to understand, Joe. If I didn't make it an effort to get the gig, to get the gig,
yeah,
I would have already been living in like freaking Fort Oglethorpe or like Lafayette or something. You know.
You want to.
I specifically was like, I want to go to Chattanooga, and I specifically wanted Hickson myself personally. Joe was going on about he wanted to go to freaking Signal Mountain. I was like, why? Like, A, it's going to be more expensive, and B, Signal Mountain. You know, like I don't want to live up there.
Well, is he still staying with his stepdad and his stepdad's future wife?
Yeah, well, for right now, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was part of the reason that me and him were getting a place together, is because both of us were tired of living with our dads.
Yeah.
Because we're like, you know, we're in our 30s. And not that I necessarily had a particular problem living with my father. I didn't.
Jane, you ignorant.
And he really didn't have a problem with me living there. My stepmom did.
Yeah.
You know, but that's fine. I get it. And when I left, like we cleaned and scrubbed the floors and everything and made it look nice and stuff, and I'm sure they're appreciative. So
are you closer to work now or
by about 5 minutes? By about 5 minutes. It would take me 20 minutes to get to work from Ringgold. It takes me 15 from Hickson. So
yeah. And you don't have to fight that 75-24 split.
Well, I didn't have to before that anyway. Where I lived in Ringgold, I could just hit East Brainerd.
Oh.
Yeah, I cut over through Graceville, hit East Brainerd.
Oh, that's right. You were sort of Indian Springs.
Yeah, right down the street from Indian Springs. So I'd actually go the back way. I wouldn't even go through Indian Springs. I'd just cut over to Graceville straight from Doug Road.
Do you remember where the guy had all the Jeep Cherokees?
He still does.
Oh, I hadn't seen much. I've been through there. He used to be called Indian Springs Motors or whatever.
Right? Yeah, he still has them.
Okay.
They're still over there, as far as I know. I remember them being over there.
Okay. Yeah, he kept my Cherokee. He kept my 2 Cherokees running for a long time.
Damn, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I might be having an old memory flashback and not like a current memory flashback. Because I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? I haven't actually looked over there in a while. I don't even know if that place is still there. It's been a while since I remember seeing the sign, but
yeah,
I never looked. I remember what you're talking about. It's right there on the. If you're coming from East Ridge, it's right there on the right.
On the right before you hit a curve, and there's like a convenience store.
Yep, the Mapco,
Yeah.
the Indian Springs Mapco. Used to go in there all the time. There's a nice guy that works down there, Dave Kent's worked there forever. Very sweet dude.
Of
Very,
course,
very nice. He's a little, he's on the spectrum, I think, but it was really
well,
cool though. He never asked to see your ID after you shopped. You could shop there one time and buy something. And if you came back in, he didn't ask to see your ID because he was he has an eidetic memory.
oh yeah.
And if you walk in on your birthday, this is the first words out of his mouth, "Happy birthday." And it blew my
And he
mind.
remembers everybody's birthday.
He remembers everyone's everybody that comes in there remembers their birthday. I'm like, that's weird. It's super cool.
That's
Hi,
impressive.
Michaela. And it's just that's just the guy with an eidetic memory. He's
We've got the great Michaela Jade in here.
Hey, how's your foot?
Yes, how is your foot?
But now I like shopping at Mapco. But now when I leave, I go down Gad Road, and the first thing that I hit when I get to the end of Gad Road, I'm at Gad Road 153, is there's a Mapco right there on the other side of the street. And that drives me up a wall. Because that red light is the longest red light in existence. I hate that red light.
On my morning
literally
commute.
just want, I pull up and there's no traffic. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not even 4 o'clock in the morning. It's 3:30. Like, just turn green. So I go to the gas station.
Not a soul in sight. Yep.
Not a soul in sight. And I was sitting there with my thumb up my butt. There's another Mapco at the end of 153 on my way to work before it turns into a highway. After you get, right there at the very last red light before you...
Hamel Road.
Yeah, Hamel Road. And I haven't... I mean, I know that one's there, but it's so small. It's tiny. They don't have the same selection. I want the selection at the other one.
Well, I'll give you a hint.
It's such a nightmare.
Get in the lane to turn to go to Walmart.
Oh, I've done it both ways.
Okay.
It still takes forever. That sensor's broken. And when the light does turn green, both lights turn green. Like it's not just the turn lane. So you're waiting no matter what.
I got something like that on my morning commute. There's a left turn just about a mile from the factory. And I pull in. I've got to wait on somebody to come from crossways and get up on the sensor before the light will actually start changing. I could be sitting there for 15 minutes waiting on somebody to come up and trigger that sensor.
Do you know that you want to know the trick, Dan? Back up.
Well,
usually there's somebody on my bumper.
Here's what makes me...
Well, if you had got to wait on somebody to trip the sensor, that's why I said back up.
Here's what makes me insane. I pull up to a red light, and I have to wait. There's no traffic going by. There's no cross traffic, but I still have to wait, right? Even though there's nothing happening. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. Vehicle comes. Finally, I see a vehicle coming towards the red light. And there it is, and it's coming, and I'm like, okay, this vehicle's gonna get up to the green light, and it's gonna go. And I see the vehicle start to slow down. And I look up, and the light's turning, and I'm like, why? Why? You already made me sit here and wait for this car, and then you're gonna turn the light red as the car's pulling up to the light? What? Just let the car go by and then change it. Why do you change it as the car is coming? And it happens so often. I'm sitting there going, like, that's not a coincidence. Those sensors are seeing that car, and they're going, we're going to change the light before the car gets here. Why'd you make me wait? You know I'm here, obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't have changed the light at all. You would just let the car go by. Yeah, it drives me up a wall.
It's
John,
we're so sorry,
you changed it now. You changed it now.
Oh, you want me to go back?
Well, I was going to ask you if it was a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It was a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's not anymore.
No, that looks like a bad day.
It's a bad day in the neighborhood.
That's not a good day in the neighborhood there. No. No, the one that I have to wait on, basically, I pull up and I've got to make a left turn. I've got to wait for somebody that wants to go across the highway to pull up over the sensors because it just sits there. Now, the brand new lights a mile back have a blinking yellow so that I could turn if there was nobody coming. I'm sitting there. There's no cars for a mile and a half that I can see on the highway. But because it's an old timer and there's no provision for making left turns when there's no traffic for a mile and a quarter, I just got to sit there and wait for one of the transfer trucks coming from the direction I want to turn into to roll up over the sensor and trigger the light to actually change. What's really weird is there's a guy on a bicycle that comes up from the opposite direction and wants to go in the same direction I want to turn across the highway. He has to stop, hit the button, and wait for the light to cycle so that he can go before I can turn.
Oh, guys, I just want to let you know, I just got a notification our show just went live on YouTube.
Just,
Yeah.
I believe that's just a little bit delayed.
We've been live on YouTube the whole time. YouTube just finally decided to send me the notification.
Oh. So they're notifying you for the show and not the after show?
Yeah, well, the after show, yeah. We're running on YouTube now. I just go in afterwards and delete all that. Just mute the music. Because the show's good enough. Oh, Skunk's got something going on with the text message?
Well, no, I had the text message.
Yeah.
It wasn't a text message. It was an email.
Oh.
It was an email that was letting me know. I don't use it anymore, obviously, but I have OkCupid, and I have an OkCupid account, and it tells me all the time that somebody has liked my account, right? And it's like somebody's liked you. You should open your app up and see if you match with them and stuff. But then then it will also say your account's going to be deactivated if you don't. So it doesn't make any sense. But then I started going through Twitter, and I'm trying to figure out this tweet that I'm looking at. And I'm just it's something I can't see. It exists. I can't see it. And I'm just trying to picture in my head. It says, Ralph is singing "What a Wonderful World" to a sleeping puppy. Like the Muppet. And I'm just like picturing that in my head and how adorable that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's obvious I can't see it. It's just a tweet. Somebody was tweeting about the Muppet Show. So I now want to see Ralph. I want to see that scene. I want to see Ralph singing "What a Wonderful World" to a sleeping puppy.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that, but it's been a long, long time since I've actually watched it.
I haven't watched the Muppet Show in a long time. I prefer Meet the Feebles, or what they actually call it in the movie, the Feebles Fun Time Variety Hour or whatever.
I don't know. I used to watch Muppet Show when it was still in production. I would watch it every night. It would come on right after MASH.
Did you ever see that?
Which
movie?
was not still in production.
Well, did you ever see that movie, Dan? Meet the Feebles? Okay.
I can't remember. Let
me tell you about Meet the Feebles.
Probably means that I didn't.
So there's this Academy Award-winning director named Peter Jackson. You might have heard of him. He did these Lord of the Hobbit movies or whatever. And they're garbage films. I don't care for them whatsoever. They're from a garbage writer, and they're just garbage, and I don't like them. But before that, when he was still living in New Zealand, he did low budget like schlock horror films, which are awesome. They were great. He did like Dead Alive, aka Braindead, and then he did Bad Taste and a bunch of other films that were just like things involving like lawnmowers and chainsaws and copious amounts of blood. Right? Amazing stuff. Great stuff. My sort of thing. And then he also did another movie, which was a parody of the Muppet Show called Meet the Feebles. Now,
I remember that.
The best way I can describe Meet the Feebles is to explain how I discovered Meet the Feebles. Way back in the day, we knew a guy that used to work for DuPont here in Hickson, right? His name was Andy. And Andy was a really cool dude. Andy was also a computer hacker, among other things, and huge in the piracy community. He pirated everything. And when he had,
I know a few people like that.
What he had in his basement, he was one of the guys who was huge into the unlock cards for DirecTV. I want to point out, by the way, this man is now the head of electronic security for DirecTV because he literally walked into the office for the interview and said, "I'm the guy who's been doing this to you." And they were like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the guy who's been making it so that that people watch your stuff for free. Would you like me to stop that from happening again? Pay me lots of money." That was literally the interview he had. And they were like, "Can you prove it?" And he handed them several cards that were unlocked. And they were like, "Holy crap, you are who you say you are. Okay, yeah, let's give you a job." Instead of prosecuting him, which was awesome. So now he works for DirecTV. And as far as I know, he's moved back to town. I don't think he works for DirecTV anymore. But if he does, he's working from home. And he moved back to Hickson. I hadn't talked to him for a really long time because he's more friends with my dad than me because he's a Volkswagen guy. But he got my dad one of those cards. And he gains the card to my dad. He tells him, it's like, there's only 2 times you turn your DirecTV off that you do not watch. Two events in the world you never have your DirecTV on for. Because they will shut your card off and deactivate your system and everything. And then you have to come back and see me, and it'll be another $90. The first one being the Super Bowl. And the second one being the World Series.
Yeah.
The 2 times you never, leave your bootleg stuff on because they'll get nailed. Especially the Super Bowl. That's the big one.
If y'all saw me laughing just a minute ago, my hero, Elon Musk, is a smart ass.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's definitely.
You just
There you go.
So,
somebody sent him a picture of the back of the building. He says, "What happened to the staircase?" Elon's reply, "We'll use a catapult and air mattress to land up on the roof and then base jump off."
So he gives my dad this card, and now we have all of the channels. And this includes everything. This is pay-per-view. Because basically what he's made is he's made a test card. A DirecTV test card. It gives you literally every channel you could possibly have, including closed circuit stuff, which was really cool because you could watch like one single camera from NASCAR.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. That was pretty neat. And of course, my dad, his favorite thing was to go into the pay-per-view section and look at the weird pay-per-view stuff that it wasn't movies, it wasn't events, it wasn't like adult films, it wasn't pornos or anything like that, but it was the weird stuff. It'd be like his favorite channel at the time, because I'll put it this way, my dad and Dave would probably get along. They had a series of videos on the pay-per-view called Ghetto Brawls that my dad he would sit there and laugh for hours. And of course I was sitting there just being like, this isn't funny, But anyway, he's flipping through the channels one day because he's bored. Because when you have everything, what are you going to watch? you know, or you can't make a choice if you have a billion choices. That's why they limit you down. The idea of freedom of choice is a lie, because if you have 100% absolute freedom, you're overwhelmed. You don't know what to do. So my dad's doing the old school thing of flipping through the channels. He's not even going through the guide. He's just hitting the channel buttons. He's like, next channel, next channel, next channel, next channel, next channel, right? He doesn't know what to watch. He ends up on the Sundance. It was either the Sundance channel or the Independent Film channel. I don't remember which one it was. He clicks on it, right? And the very first thing that we see in this movie, I would say it's about a quarter of the way through. It clicks over, and this instantly gets my attention. The first thing I see is a walrus puppet, like a felt walrus puppet, like a Muppet, you know, so it's basically a Muppet. It's a walrus, and he's going, And then the camera cuts to the shot of what he's doing, and it's a cat. There's a little cat puppet down at the bottom who's just all like, and he's just going to town on this. And then somebody knocks on the door, and he was like, damn it, I was about to toss my cookies. And I burst out laughing. I couldn't see. I was laughing so hard. My dad was like, whatever. And I was like, no, dude, leave it. I gotta see this movie. I want to know what happens next. This is messed up. I love it. Right. And so he won't, exactly, Brian. That's very similar to Evan Doorbell did that. He worked for a phone company for a little while for that reason. But he was.
Yeah, I saw that.
He was. My dad was.
It was not a very big bomb, by the way.
He clicked off and just went to the next thing, and I was like, I've got to find this movie. So I started asking people about it, especially the guys I knew that were like into weird films. Like, have you ever seen this movie where the walrus fucks a cat? And finally, somebody went, that sounds like Meet the Feebles. I'm pretty sure that was in Meet the Feebles. I was like, I've got to see this movie. So I went to the video store like the next day as soon as I found out.
This doesn't have anything to do with John Waters, does it?
No. This is all Peter Jackson. This was all it was all done in New Zealand. It was a New Zealand film.
Because John Waters had that thing about doing Beatles references in his movies.
Well,
excuse me.
You all right there, bud?
Oh.
All
That
right.
Philly cheese biscuit's coming back at me.
I'm just saying, man, it was not a natural noise. It sounded like this. That sounded like Satan himself was coming out of your throat. So,
I think the soul left my body.
so yeah, that's the kind of film that this is. It's basically
I'll be right back.
Kind it is like if Meet the Feebles is like if the Muppet Show, like the behind the scenes of the Muppet Show, if it was an actual Hollywood production, like if these characters were real, what would they be like, right? And so, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. There's like heroin addicted. There's a heroin addicted frog, and there's one. The producer of the show, the director of the show, his right hand man is this this rat named Trevor, right? Or no, it's the producer of the show's right hand man is named Trevor. The director of the show is a gay fox. He even has a dance, the song and dance number at one point about butt sex, which was hilarious because furries. And but anyway, Trevor is a sleazy scumbag throughout the entire thing. Then you find out that like in his off time when he's not working on the show, he's in the basement of the building filming like sadomasochistic porn. They go down there and it's like a it's a cow and she's chained to like a radiator and he's filming it, right? And there's this cow chained to the radiator. It's got like there's a cockroach with a whip like whipping her, and then somebody interrupts the scene and he's like, "Cut! Like, what are you doing here? Like, you're interrupting the scene." She goes and sits down. And then the rest of the scene plays by, and then the guy leaves, and he turns around and goes, "Okay, we can go back to filming. Where's the masked masochist?" And he looks down, and she sat on him. Oh man, It's a weird ass film. Like it's a weird ass film. There's an anteater who's addicted to cocaine. Like that's the kind of movie it is. It's very, very weird. And like I said, Academy Award winning director. It's a
Good night, Christian.
Oh.
That was a great. Brian reminded me of a great thing. There's a one of the very last quote unquote party lines that Evan Doorbell ever recorded, where there was a bad trunk and everybody could just get on at the same exact time. They were on it while a guy from the phone company was repairing it. And so he's talking to him while he's on there, and they're all BSing with him, and they're just all like, so who are you? And he's like, Mr. Telephone. And he doesn't want to give his real name and all this other stuff because he doesn't know if anybody's recording or anything like that, and he doesn't want people to know who he is. But near the end of it, when it's just a few people left on the line and this guy fixing it, Evan finally asks him, he's like, so let me ask you this. This happened because there is a loose ground wire and everybody's just connected to the same exact, like it's all connected to the same thing. And he's like, yep. And it's like, so the way that you're fixing it is just you're just clipping the trunks and rewiring it, and so that it all dead ends at the same exact point. And he goes, thinks about it for a minute. He goes, are you Evan? Just like he instantly figured out who he was.
I used to have a phone line like that when we lived in Red Bank, but it would only do that when it rained.
Yeah, lots of crosstalk.
Mad about that.
And
I had well, they did have a phone. My dad told me about this when he lived in, because he lived in Des Plaines, Illinois, right? My grandfather, his father, was in the fire department. He'd later become a fire chief, but at this time he was just a regular fireman, right? And he used to have this thing where when he was a teenager, right? And this is, let's see, mid-70s, right? Every night around 9 p.m., phone would ring, but it wasn't a regular ring. You had when the phone rings, it goes ding, right? This would not stop. It would just keep going. Just constant ring until somebody picked up the phone, right? So somebody would have to pick up the phone and listen for a second. Most of the people would pick up the phone and just hang it up immediately because they already knew what it was. A long ring, you can't mistake it for anything else. If it doesn't stop ringing, you know what it was. But if you picked it up, there was a guy on the other end who would just be like testing the bells, testing the bells, testing the bells, testing the bells. And I'm guessing it must have been a recording on a loop. Like it couldn't have been some dude just sitting there for 10 minutes doing that. But they would do that until the recording would play until every single line picked up at least once. If they picked up at least once, whether they disconnected or not, they got a record of it, that their phone is working. And if somebody's phone wasn't working after I think it was like 30 minutes, nobody picked up their phone and didn't have any record of them going out of town or anything like that, then they were like, okay, so something's wrong. Like we need to go fix that or whatever, and then get it figured out or whatever. But the whole entire thing was like, if there is a fire, they can call the fire department people, get them to come down to the fire station, right? But see, all the firemen were around the same age, right? And they all had kids. And all their kids were around the same age. So the guy would be doing the testing the bells, testing the bells, testing the bells. And then they would test everything. Everything would be fine. It disconnected. All the trunk lines would come together at once. It turned into a party line. So all of the firefighters' kids were sitting there on the line, BSing with each other, and they could talk all night if they wanted to. As long as at least two people were still on the line, it would still be connected. So you had all these 13-year-old kids that lived in the Chicago area were just talking to each other on the phone.
Now, Dan will remember these actual true party lines to where you would only answer your phone if you got your ring.
Yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah, the special ring.
Yeah.
The one that they had, Devin talks about it in one of his tapes. He talks about the special ring where if you call a line, right, you would call a line and then dial a number and then hang up and wait a minute. And then it would call you back and go ring, 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 like 4 quick rings in a row, right? And then after, a second, it would do it again, and eventually you pick it up. Hey, you're on the party line. You can talk to everybody, right? One day,
this was set up to where, sometimes, you go to make a phone call, you pick up the phone to call somebody, and there's people talking.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to hang up and, wait till the line clears before you can make your call.
Oh, you're talking about conferencing. That style of party lines.
No, it was actually called it was a shared phone line between like 4 houses.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about.
To make the phone bill instead of being $9 a month, it was $5 a month.
Well, he was talking about that line doing that, and he went over to his buddy's house, and we went over there. It was one of because you could only do this on certain phones back in the day, because there was only certain phone types. There was, crossbar 1, crossbar 5, electronic, etc. And you only had like certain ones that you could EL1s and all that. And you can only do this getting on this one certain line in the New York area. You can only do it if you're on a crossbar 1 system. So you had to be on crossbar 1 in order for it to work. So he goes over to his buddy's house. His buddy had crossbar 1, and he could tell just by picking up the phone, and it's rotary dial. The 1. As a 1 was the fastest digit you could dial on a rotary phone. Right? And he would listen. If there was a burst of dial tone after he entered the digit, like there's a burst and then it goes silent, then he knew, okay, this is one of the. If it went silent immediately, then he knew it was crossbar 5. And he didn't know the names for these at the time. He would find out later which one was which. At the time period, he just was like, this phone has the burst of dial tone, this one doesn't. So he called this one burst dial tone and this one not burst dial tone. And that's how he figured out which ones were which and who he could call, right? So he picks up the phone at his buddy's house, gets the burst of dial tone, knows he can now call this party line. It does the whole entire thing with getting the ring and all that other stuff, right? The weird ring back. Well, when he did it, he didn't think about it. He's over at his buddy's house because his buddy's father was in the hospital. So when the phone rang with the special weird ringtone of going bring, 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 right, real fast 4 times, the mother was like, well, there's nothing else that could possibly be. It has to be an emergency phone call from the hospital informing me that something's happened to my husband. And she immediately pushes Evan out of the way, picks up the phone, and it's just like, hello, what's going on? What's going on with my husband? To only hear a bunch of people on the line just being all like, who are you talking to, lady? This is a party line. Go away.
Now, those phones that had that special ring, back into the early part of 2000, I was buying rotary phones at yard sales and any place I could track them down, and I would fix them, clean them up, restore them, sell them on eBay. Those phones that are part of the party line system that I was telling you about, the shared line, had a special ringer that had to have a capacitor to make it ring.
Yeah.
Well, when you would dial it on when that phone was put on a regular system, when you dial it, it would charge the capacitor and it would go tick. Well, at the time, my desk was sitting there. I discharged that capacitor. I found my ass laying over there.
And the rest of you was somewhere nearby
Yeah.
in the same county.
Problem is, I didn't realize that until the second time I did it.
Well, that is really interesting.
That's like playing with a cattle prod.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day with the analog phone line, had to make the ring happen, right? And it was something ridiculous, like a ridiculous amount of voltage that would go through the line just to make the ring happen, right?
1400 volt DC.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was something ridiculous because it's like it doesn't seem like it would need that much to make that ringer work, but that's what it put out, right? And my dad said if you wanted to have a lot of fun and you're really clever, right? You go over to your buddy's house and you'd be sitting on a metal chair. You very carefully disconnect the phone line, pull the RJ14 jack off, and wire it directly in to his chair. Pick up the phone, dial his own phone number, and hang up. And shoot his ass out of that chair real fucking fast.
Hey, you think sticking your tongue on a 9-volt battery will knock out of you? Stick your tongue on that cord.
Oh man,
when it's ringing. Yeah.
No, not with it ringing. Just the dial tone coming through. The dial tone coming through is 84 volts.
The one that I've always wondered about because they don't even sell them anymore. I've never seen them on.
Hey, John B. Pica, welcome to the show.
Hey, John.
Do you guys remember? I mean, obviously, you three remember.
Yeah.
I'm the young one here. Lantern batteries.
Yeah,
the lantern battery
and the big 12 volts.
Yeah, they're these big, gigantic, huge batteries, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they're gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they got these two prongs coming off of them. One's obviously positive, one's obviously negative, right? And I'm sitting there looking at it going like, what happens if you put your tongue to that? The size of that thing, if you blow your pants off.
Sort of, yeah. I imagine it would.
Scott, let me tell you something I built. Let me describe what I used. Since you're a gearhead, you'll understand this.
Real quick, John, why the wall?
Why not?
Why that scene?
So you thought you might like to go to the show.
You could have done the one from the beginning of the movie. You didn't have to use that one. That's the Nazi one.
Yeah. Well, let me describe what I had. Yeah. I had 2 of those 6-volt lantern batteries.
Uh-huh.
A flasher, the flasher.
Yeah, I know.
And an ignition coil.
Wait a minute. That don't sound safe.
No, but it's fun as hell.
I'm picturing the arc. All I'm picturing is.
Well, I had these 2 wires. I had a friend. Poor guy was gullible. I love him to death. We grew up together. He was my best friend, but damn, he'd fall for it every time. I put it inside this little box and had 2 wires coming up and a switch. And I told him, I said, flip that switch on, and you cannot grab those 2 wires. It's just 2 little copper wires coming up out of it, about this far apart. He was grabbing. He said, "See, I can grab it." Because it was a blinker flasher. It wasn't real fast, but it was. Yeah. Just enough to be like the points in a car.
Well, you used to do haunts.
Yeah.
I do how my grandfather used to do haunts. My grandfather used to do all sorts of stuff you couldn't do today. It would be illegal. One of the things that he did is that he took he took an arc welder and a metal pole, and he had a piece of it was a like a metal barricade, right? That everybody would go and sit in front of. And he had the arc welder hooked up to this, and he'd walk by and he'd put the pole on the barricade, which was also hooked up to the arc welder, so he'd complete the circuit and shower sparks to scare the hell out of everybody, right? You could, because it would just be all right across.
Now you got to use a trickle charger, no more than 6 volts, and chicken wire.
And he would do that, and it would shower sparks. He didn't reveal the fact that this thing was snaked up through his jacket, because it looked like he would walk out like it was a cane and then do that and scare the hell out of everybody. And he, of course, put it on his shoulder, and it's not connected to anything anymore, so he could do that. And he would just be all like, welcome to the haunted house, and we're going to show you all a wonderful time. And he was like, and for this first part of the haunted house, I need a volunteer. And he'd step on it. He had a pressure plate on the floor. He'd reach forward. He'd step forward a little bit and press on the pressure plate, which immediately went to a solenoid. And the solenoid would randomly, the way that he had it set up, it would randomly choose a seat inside of every seat, right? Or he'd press on it, and there was a bunch of solenoids that would randomly choose one. The solenoid was connected to a nail. So he'd say, I need a volunteer, and he'd press on that pressure plate, and the nail would come up and would poke somebody in the butt, and they'd jump up, what the hell was that? And he would be like, oh, good, we have a volunteer. He didn't know which chair it was going to be every time, because it would cycle through, because he had it on like a distributor.
Yeah. Now the Stringers had this thing, we called it the bench. Did you ever go to their haunted houses, John?
Yes.
Do you remember the bench?
Not particularly, no.
They had this bench. Jeff came up with a brilliant idea of taking this electric motor and putting, when I say electric motor, we're talking like a grinder motor.
Yeah.
And then we made this, I took this pulley, drilled a hole through it, put one of those little clevis things, and then we stuck a metal plate underneath it. And when we hit that thing, that whole bench, the bench was a church pew. And that thing would hit right in the middle, and that thing would shake the whole bench. Guys would leave the ground. The girls would sit and wiggle.
Wrong.
Do it again. Do it again.
Wow, I tell you the one haunt that I worked for. I worked one haunt, or for Haunted Village in Ringgold, because a guy I was friends with at the time ran it, and I was a total asshole back then. So, yeah, I did some bad stuff while I was down there, but I do remember the one time that something went horribly, horribly wrong. The whole entire time we were there, nothing ever went horribly, horribly wrong. The one time something went horribly wrong did not add to the atmosphere at all. It freaked everybody out. You see, they had a moment where the person who's giving the tour of the village would shuffle all of the patrons into a dark room and close the door. And I'll see you on the other side. He closes the door and he'd run around to the other side and wait for the moment to open the door and get them all out, right? So for a moment they're inside this dark room, and what's supposed to happen is that one of the people who's in the dark room hits a light switch, it turns on a strobe light, and inside is several very attractive and voluptuous ladies dressed as vampires, right? Very curvy girls. Turn it on light, and then they're just there. So you're just surrounded by hot women, but they're all going, right? So the girls are like, fuck off, and then the guys are just all like, can I get your number, right? So it goes every single time. One of those girls would get every night. One of those girls would get asked out by some dude. It was hilarious. Except this one time. So what happens is that David closes the door. We're all laughing. Everybody on the outside is laughing. And then all of a sudden, before he gets over to the other side, he's waiting for the moment to open up the door. And all of a sudden, we hear a scream. Well, first we heard the pop, then we heard the scream. David opens up the door. It's pitch black. These people are confused. They don't know what the hell is going on there. It's like, we just heard a scream. I don't know. And he's doing the whole get out. Come on. We got to go. We got to go. Right? But with the pop and the scream and the fact that it was completely pitch black in there, right? We're all confused because we're like,
somebody got shocked.
That's not what's supposed to happen. Right? So they all run off to the next part. The guy who's running it, Jason, he comes running up. His strobe light never came on. And one of the vampires runs out the back. The patrons are still standing there because they're going into the next part. And one of the vampires runs out the back and goes, Jason, you need to get over here right now. Right? And then David stops the tour and says, all right, hey, you guys need to go this way and go immediately to the front. Like, show's over. Like, because he can already tell something's wrong. We're not even playing anymore. Go. And the rest of us just standing, all of us dressed as zombies are just standing there going, like, what the hell just happened? Right? They bring the girl out and like here to here is black. She reached up and put her hand on the light switch and then wrapped her hands around the box and grabbed the wires with the other hand. So when she clicked it, it arced. From like I said, from here all the way down and around again. Burnt the shit out of her.
Yeah.
Like a week later, we saw her again, and she was back. She was ready to do the show again. She was gauzed up from here up, and we were just all like, hey, you're gonna make a vampire. Not with that. No. You're gonna be a zombie for a while. But she was fine. It was a very mild shock, but I mean, she she learned her lesson about light switches. Do not put it on the back of the box.
We know about playing with wires.
And that's the thing. If she had just flicked the switch like a normal person would, but instead she did it like this, where she grabbed onto it. So her fingers were wrapped around the back and her thumb was here on the switch. Well, when you do that, like, where are your fingers going? They're touching where the wires are connected. To be fair, we were to code on that, but, it still was like, when did you turn it on and off like a regular light switch? I don't know. So, it was a very low budget production anyway.
Guys, can you believe we've already blown through nearly an hour?
Yeah.
I can believe it. All right, I'm back. I got to pee.
All right. And it's just leave us sitting here, John. John, I think you're going to need a bigger boat.
The John boat ain't cutting it.
Yeah. So, yeah, you were talking. I saw you said something to John Pica about the Whataburger, then posted.
Whataburger. Have you ever eaten at a Whataburger?
No, I've never had a Whataburger.
If I had money, I'd put a Whataburger franchise in Chattanooga.
It's only $40,000. What was that?
Wasn't me. Must be Skunk. Skunk left his mic on.
Skunk left his mic on. I think he ran into something. Are you okay, Skunk?
I like potato chips or something.
What was that?
Are you okay?
I'm fine. Why? What are you laughing about?
You left your mic on.
So?
We heard, kabam! Oh!
Okay, so back at my dad's place, if you put the toilet seat down, it goes down slowly.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to putting the toilet seat down all the time because we had animals and we didn't want the animals to drink out of the toilet bowl. So every time I get done using the bathroom, I don't slam it down. I just push it down, put the seat down so that, animals don't drink out, because I'm used to doing that. It's a habit. That thing's fucking loud. But that's not the other sound that you heard. That's not what you think it was.
Okay.
No, that was the wrong orifice. That was me pulling one of your how would you describe that, Joe?
Yeah. Brian says an hour, do a 4-hour show like me. Brian, we usually do 4 or 5 hours. Because sometimes we don't even, back during the times when Dan didn't have to go to work, Skunk didn't have to go to work, Blake was on here, John was on there. We'd end the show at 1:00 in the morning, and
whatever happened to damn Blake? Yeah, come on.
Blake found a girlfriend. So he's spending time with his new honey bear.
Something I wanted to tell y'all, kind of a public service announcement sort of thing. I went to Costco a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
They had a big pack of D-size batteries for like $10.
I got nothing.
Which, some of the old folks do.
I used to have a boombox that took D-size batteries, and I threw it away.
I still have my JVC in the garage down there that takes 8 D-size batteries.
I had a Sears one, and I threw it away because it was broken, and I didn't feel like fixing it.
This one's still in good shape, and I bought it when I was stationed in Berlin the first time. And it has multi-wave receiver capability, so it can actually pick up shortwave transmissions.
Oh, that would.
So I'm hanging on to that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
now this is something Skunk may not understand, but John will. You're playing music in your car on the cassette player, and all of a sudden it's playing along fine, and then it started going whoa, whoa, whoa. And you're like, no. Trying to kick it out before you.
To me, the thing was listening to something, and you'd be listening to you'd be listening to like Def Leppard or something like that. You listen to like Rock of Ages. It'd be like Rock of Ages, Rock of Ages. It's like no, do not, no. You checked. As fast as you possibly could, because you knew that if you didn't, that tape was going to go everywhere. You were going to have to sit there with a freaking pencil.
Yes, you're right at the edge of the cassette CD swap over.
Yeah, no, I wasn't right at the edge. I was right in the middle of it. Because I had several cassettes. I had several cassette players. And the biggest thing with me was that, like, what I used to do is we had the Mondo stereo from Sony, the big stereo, the 5.1 surround sound stereo. It cost my dad a pretty penny. He got it. I'm pretty sure got it out of the Service Merchandise catalog, because that's where they bought everything, right? And so we had the stereo hooked up, and the way it was hooked up was that everything that we wanted to play went through the stereo audio-wise. But since it went through the stereo, it also went through the tape decks. And it had the dual tape decks, deck A and deck B. So I'd get a blank cassette tape, and I'd put it in there, and I'd sit there, and this is pre-TiVo, and I would just watch MTV, and the very second that I knew a music video was coming on that I wanted to have a copy of the song, I'd hit record. So there was me sitting there, like, and I would see like the very beginning of Slipknot's "Wait and Bleed." I remember how it always started out because I've seen the music video so many times. I was like, I really like this song, and I remember it always started out with like the old like Super 8 footage of maggots, right? And as soon as I saw that, I'd be like, record. Yes. And I'd wait till the song ended. And of course, I did that on a bunch of songs. So I had this tape that if you'd listen to it, it would go and then play a song and then well, and it was just this, and everything was, of course, because I was recording it onto a VHS, or I was recording it onto a cassette tape through the amplifier, and the amplifier had an EQ on it. The EQ, of course, was set to rock, so it's not recording it as line level; it's recording it with the amplification, right? So every time I would pull the tape out, I'd put it into my boom box or my Walkman. They would be distorted because they'd have like heavy bass and all that stuff, and that was always hilarious.
John, you grew up in Red Bank, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you remember when they had cable stereo?
No.
You could hook your cable TV to your stereo. You know, you had the little, you screwed it in and it had that little adapter thing. Instead of putting it to the TV, if you put it to your FM antenna, you could get 96 Rock out of Atlanta, MTV in stereo, and CMT in stereo.
We always ran the VCR to the stereo, and then whenever you're watching cable, you just turn on the VCR and the sound went over to the stereo, and then you turn on stereo speakers. Heck,
well, this was before the stereo VCRs came out.
I thought all the VCRs were stereo because they always had the three. They always had the 3 RCA plugs that were the, red, yellow, and white.
Well, the early ones just had the little cable that came out.
Left, right, and video. That's when the 3 were.
But this was but the first VCRs just had the cable come out. It's like cable TV cable.
Coax.
Coax. That's the word.
I wonder how we all know that.
What, coax?
Yeah.
Short for coaxial.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that, Dan, because we're old.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long time. Oh, is it that time?
It's that time.
Well.
Yeah. And Skunk's got to get up early, drive to work.
I'm going to tell my boss when I see her next, I'm going to be like, look, there's the thing about Fridays. So I'm on this new route and I can't get off. There's no way. I've looked at it and like just with the amount of places that I have to go, how long I have to be at some of these places, and the amount of distance that I have to drive because I got to go all the way up to like Manchester and Winchester and Altamont and Tullahoma. Like, there's no way I can get off of work in time to be able to drive down to Atlanta when I need to go down to Atlanta. It's just, you got to understand. Straighten out that Dalton guy and make sure that the guy's name is Dalton, by the way, not the city. Like, straighten out that Dalton guy who's doing the Chattanooga route. Straighten him out and make sure he starts showing up to work and doesn't bail on us, because I really am going to need somebody to cover this route when I'm not here.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, man, this is going to be a bad day.
All right. With that, guys, we need to say goodnight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back Saturday night. 11 o'clock for Stupid O'Clock. And then the Stupid After Show Sunday morning at 1 a.m. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Yeah, put that cold beer on your head, Skunk. We'll holler at you later. Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.